the Super Bowl. This stuff is hard.
Yeah. You got to have the symmetry and the chemistry, and it doesn't exist in Arizona. You got to wonder some of these other organizations. We've talked about it this week. Kraft and Belichick. What's going on? Is there a fracture there? What's going to happen? Like, if you don't have the chemistry, it just doesn't look good for the future.
So another ugly performance last night for Zach Wilson of the Jets. Lost to the Jags. To me, anyway, it's pretty obvious for everybody. Zach Wilson is not a franchise quarterback. Not. He could be a backup. I have my doubts. Generally, backups are older, mature guys, very good in the room, teachers, mentors. You know, Colt McCoy's dad was a coach. Colt McCoy can come in and win the occasional game. Good in the room, good with film, good with young quarterbacks. That's not really Zach's thing. He's the second most popular quarterback on the team, and yet he's the starter. The good news is, and there is good news, the roster's really good. Some good young receivers. It was a standalone game. Everybody saw it. Nobody can deny it. And you had a star young quarterback as a comp next to him, playing on the road against a better defense. And he looked really, really, really good, like a starting franchise quarterback would. Zach Wilson had 7 drives, 78 yards. A former CFL backup quarterback, Chris Streveler, had 1 drive for 83. The backup was noticeably bigger, noticeably stronger, more mobile, more confident, more athletic, and more successful. It's no longer a debate. Go big or go bigger. Just ask yourself. Mike White, 27 years old, has to play Patrick Mahomes, 27 years old, Super Bowl MVP. Does it feel like a fair fight? Josh Allen, twice a year. Mike White. That the answer? Tua, Mike McDaniel, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle versus Mike White. Is that the answer? Or you could draft one. Another rookie quarterback against Bill Belichick, who, you know, owns rookie quarterbacks and will eventually get a real offensive coordinator. Is that the answer? It's New York. Go big. You know, these teams that try to save money or convince themselves they didn't get it wrong, it's like a shovel. You continue to dig. Look around. Look at your division. Josh Allen, Belichick. The answer isn't another young quarterback. This roster is actually pretty good. It's not like the Giants. A generic roster in a generic stadium. The Jets have an elite corner, and they're not paying him anything. Some really nice, good young receivers. And they're not paying him anything. They're not tied to an ugly quarterback contract. They need a left tackle and a veteran quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo, for the record, played in this system. The coach from San Francisco, the coordinator for the Jets, he knows the system. Been banged up a little, but it was an ankle injury, not shoulder, not throwing arm. Derek Carr. Again, Derek Carr, in utter chaos, in a tough division, willed the Raiders to the playoffs last year. But the good news is the roster's fine. You're not tied to any bad contracts. But Zach Wilson's not it. And there's total clarity today. Total, absolute clarity. That's what's great. You get these games buried in the 1 o'clock window and somebody sees stats. Nope, we all saw it. Cold, windy, just added elements. He looks small. He looks lost. It's okay. But half the guys you take in the first round just do not work. Don't convince yourself it does. We all saw it. We know it's bad. Here's the head coach after.
We haven't seen the last of him, but right now he just got to focus on finding ways to get better. We got to find ways to help him. We got to find ways to protect better. We got to find ways to run better. We've got to find better ways to call the game better. We've got to do a lot. It's not just him. It's a collective whole. We've all got to find ways to get better.
No, it's mostly him, and that's okay. It's mostly him. So the bigger game tomorrow is the Cowboys, and they're taking on the Eagles. But the Eagles are now traveling a little beat up, and they're going to use a backup quarterback, Gardner Minshew, who's not terrible, kind of fun to watch. Good backup. Rob Ninkovich, former NFL player, was on The other network, ESPN, was talking about the pressure is now absolutely, no, not on Dak. The pressure's on Mike McCarthy, he said. And this is what we discussed yesterday. Dak goes 13-3, got all the credit. Zeke got suspended for 6 games. His passer rating plummeted. It wasn't a reality check on Dak. It was criticism that Zeke wasn't mature. Then Jason Garrett's fault. Then the contract negotiation of fault. Now Jerry Jones, sometimes it's his fault. Now it's Mike McCarthy's fault. This is what I talked about yesterday. The articles are already being written. If Mike McCarthy does not win, folks, Mike McCarthy has a Super Bowl and went 4-1 with Cooper Rush. Mike McCarthy's fine. He's not Belichick. He's not John Harbaugh. He's not Andy Reid. Nobody's saying he is. He's not Kyle Shanahan or McVay. There's 5 or 6 guys top of the food chain. He's not. But he's in the mix with the other 15 guys who have jobs and have steady employment. What's interesting, though, about Dak is his predecessor, Tony Romo. I remember defending Romo for years. He got crushed. And it's interesting what we do with quarterbacks. Peyton Manning, for over a decade, his label was Peyton Manning can't win the big game. Before that, I grew up with John Elway, who was crucified for getting blown out in Super Bowls. Not a bad place to get blown out. Aaron Rodgers gets a lot of heat for not winning the big game. Josh Allen, now starting to hear it. When are you going to get to the big one? And Tony Romo, the predecessor to Dak, took a lot of heat. If you go look at their regular season numbers, and Dak has had on average a significantly better offensive line, not necessarily close. For our radio audience, they're the same quarterback. Dak, slightly better. You go to the playoffs, Romo's better. You go to the fourth quarter, which really matters for quarterbacks, and Tony Romo's absolutely better than Dak. But that's what's interesting. Tony was better in the playoffs. Tony is better in the fourth quarter. Yet Tony Romo got crucified. So you say to yourself, well, I mean, Dak is the underdog story, 4th round. Tony Romo was undrafted. Tony Romo didn't get paid for years and years in this league. Tony Romo had bad offensive lines. Tony Romo had Jason Garrett, who took all the heat for Dak. It's not that I don't like Dak. I do. He's a good B-plus quarterback. He's Kirk Cousins with a better brand. But it is remarkable how we always blame the quarterback for years, even great ones. Elway forever, and Peyton Manning, and Aaron Rodgers. Matt Stafford, when he came to the Rams, a lot of people are like, he can't win the big game. He won the Super Bowl first year. Tony Romo, small school guy, got clobbered. Dak, it's not about Mike McCarthy this weekend. Got a Super Bowl, 4-1 with Cooper Rush. Went 13-3 with Favre. Got a ring with Aaron Rodgers. Winning record with a backup. Mike McCarthy has led Dak to 100-plus passer rating since they've been together. This is on Dak. At home, Eagles beat up Gardner Minshew. Dak's got to win this game. Can't wait for this weekend. So tomorrow, a lot of games, about half your slate. Best game appears to be this one. Sunday, your best game. I think Miami at home against Green Bay is the most fascinating game. But those early windows, one of the reasons I love the NFL, do you know 92 of the 100 top-rated TV shows last year, NFL football games? Isn't that incredible? 92 out of 100. It's the most watched thing in England. It's the English Premier League. In Canada, it's hockey. Here, it's the NFL. Those early window games often look like dreck, and it always comes down to 3 or 4 of them going to overtime, last possession. If you've been keeping up with the news lately, you know we're living in challenging economic times. Americans suffering from supply chain problems, soaring grocery prices, and still higher than historically average inflation. Stock market trouble. All this economic turmoil means increased volatility in the stock market that can impact your retirement investments. Legacy Precious Metals, it's a company you should trust when investing in gold and gold IRAs. For the record, a gold IRA has the same tax advantages of a traditional IRA while giving you protection because you own physical gold. Legacy Precious Metals believes your financial security should never be left to chance.